Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from this month's sponsor, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
Also, if you are looking for something new and different for the upcoming Compliance Week celebration in November, check out The Compliance Kids. It's my 3-book children's series on compliance and compliance professionals for children. But they make great gifts and great training tools for your employees. You can check it out on Amazon.com. We've linked to it in the show notes. The Daily Compliance News for September 26, 2024, the Legal Limbo edition. And we begin with that story from NewsWeek, which reports that former Senator Robert Menendez and his wife are in legal limbo on their corruption cases. Menendez was scheduled to be sentenced for 16 criminal charge convictions on October 29th, but the district court has rescheduled the hearing to January 29. Additionally, his wife, who, if you'll remember, he threw under the bus at his trial, has stage 3 breast cancer, and it will require her to have a mastectomy surgery, and her trial has been postponed twice and there's no rescheduled date. So, legal limbo for the Menendezes. Next up from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, David Smagala reporting that the co-founder of Skael faces criminal charges and a lawsuit from the SEC for allegedly lying to investors about the business automation startup's revenue figures. Between January 21 and February 22, he and his CEO managed to raise $30 million from investors based on annual revenue of $7 million, when the actual figure was no more than $170,000. Oops. Next up from the BBC, a very quick turnaround on the trial of Iswaran in Singapore. He's the former Singapore transport minister who's now been convicted of receiving gifts while in office. He changed his plea at trial to guilty. The corruption case was scheduled to start Monday, and he came in and actually pled out at the last minute. And our final story is from the New York Times, which has a very interesting list of all of the major antitrust actions from the Department of Justice that are currently ongoing. Listeners to this podcast will certainly know that the DOJ has been much more aggressive in its antitrust action under the Biden administration. And this article puts together a very good list for you of the defendants in all of these antitrust actions and the key allegations. It's a much more robust enforcement than we've seen in many years from the DOJ, certainly much more robust than under the prior administration. So check out this story if you're interested in antitrust, or just if you're a corporate compliance officer and need to understand what's going on in that part of compliance. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up, or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.